Hello, my movie peeps. Thank you so much for clicking on an episode of Side Flick. Obviously, I am not in my studio right now. This lady has me hostage. Hotel art, am I right, fellas? But I am currently out of town because Monday was my big old fat birthday, and I usually like to go out and see the world now that I got this YouTube money, really thanks to you guys. So it makes me also want to make a video for you, even when I'm out of town. And we actually have a lot of interesting movie news here to discuss here today. Some of the stuff we're going to be talking about is we're finally going to be getting a sequel to I Know What You Did Last Summer. We have shocker surprise, The Backrooms, the viral sensation, actually getting an A24 movie. We're also going to be looking at reactions for Ant-Man the Wasp Quantumiana that are looking mixed. Phase 5, please don't be like Phase 4. That along with so much more, so you guys know the drill. Leave me your opinions down below with everything we discuss here today. Timestamps will be in the descriptions. Jumping into our first movie news story here today is the sequel for I Know What You Did Last Summer. I have been waiting for a true sequel to the first two movies, and this is looking to be it right here, y'all. Deadline here is reporting I Know What You Did Last Summer sequel in the works at Sony, with Jennifer Caton Robinson directing, Jennifer Love Hewitt and Freddie Prinze Jr. in talks to return. Now, while we don't know too much about the sequel this time around, we do have some details given to us in the article. For one, it was a pitch that this director made to Sony that really blew their minds and were like, yep, let's make another one. They're also going ahead and crediting the popularity of the last two Scream movies for the reason Sony wanted back into the slasher genre, and that this movie will not necessarily be a reboot, but more of a passing of the torch with original characters and some new ones. All of this sounds really fantastic to me. I just wish that Kevin Williamson was a part of it. I mean, he is the one that wrote the first two movies. He's also the one that wrote the majority of the Scream films, and I feel like he's someone who's just honed in the craft of good slasher movies. If you haven't seen Sick, which is on Peacock, I highly recommend it to you. It is a slasher movie set in the pandemic, but I really enjoyed it, so I'm kind of surprised they didn't bring him back on board. This director also does give me some faith because the last movie she did is Do Revenge on Netflix, another movie I actually enjoyed. I thought it was pretty fun. I'm just really hoping they can lock in Freddie Prinze Jr. and Jennifer Love Hewitt in here because they are really what made I Know What You Did Last Summer really special. I just think those first two I Know What You Did Last Summer movies are very underrated. If you're someone who hasn't watched them, I highly recommend them to you. I feel like they still stand up to this day. Even the sequel I think is as good as the first movie. But I mean, we saw what they did with the TV series. It got canceled after one season. Not a lot of people were into it. So hopefully this can kind of be the appreciation it needs. But I guess we'll have to wait and see on that. This is where I throw it off to you guys. Are you a fan of I Know What You Did Last Summer? The first two movies. We don't talk about that third movie. Are you excited for this new sequel? What would you want them to do in it? Would love to hear your opinions down below. The next thing I wanted to talk about here today is something kind of happening in the movie space. Recently, AMC theaters were in the news because they're introducing a new ticket pricing strategy that I just don't know if it's going to work, y'all. So if you haven't heard by now, AMC's new strategy to either bring people or disincentivize them from going into the theater is by charging them different prices depending on where you like to sit in a movie theater. Here is kind of a chart to give you an idea. As you can see, the middle seats, they consider the most desirable seats, so you will have to pay $2 extra if you want to sit there. If you get a seat that is much closer to the screen, those that have your neck hurting by the end, those will be $2 off. And if you just want a regular seat, it'll just be regular price. And this has got movie fans discussing whether it's a smart or dumb idea, most people leaning on the dumb. If I'm gonna play devil's advocate, I do think it's smart for them to charge less for those seats that are like super close to the screen where you don't fully get to enjoy your experience. I feel like that should have been the only thing they announced, and that would have made people really happy, is just every other seat regular price, and then the first three rows that are super close to the screen, $2 off. Then the headlines would have been AMC decreasing price on tickets. That would have been awesome, but instead they're AMC increasing price. So looking on the other side of it, someone who's matured as a movie connoisseur and goes almost every week, I do like me them middle seats. And now to know I'm gonna have to be paying $2 extra just to sit in those desirable seats, I'm like, oh, that's kind of a bummer. I remember being a kid and thinking the best seats were all the way at the top. So I don't know if this will really stick. I think it'll actually deter some people away. I know AMC is trying different things to get people in. You guys know around here, I'm a Cinemark guy, and that's not even because they sponsor me. That's just been the theater I've gone to since I was a kid, and they have just vastly improved over time. But aside from that, I think what a theater needs to keep people going is enforcing the no phone policy, the no talking policy, having a clean but also high quality environment. Some AMCs I go to, man, they still don't have them luxury reclining seats with heat warmers. I'm like, AMC, come on now, spit out some money. And also food variety, man. I mean, you see me, I want to be eating a pizza, a burger, some large popcorn, a diet soda, because I'm watching my weight. But I feel like variety in food is also a big deal. I don't know, this is where I throw it off to you guys. I don't think they're going to stick to this. I think it's going to be something that they do for like a couple of months, and they're like, yeah, this ain't working, let's take it off. But maybe some of you guys think this is a brilliant idea. What do you think of AMC introducing this new ticket pricing strategy? Moving on to something I honestly thought was fake the first time I heard about it, and that is the viral sensation The Backrooms actually getting an A24 horror movie. Deadline here has it reported that the Backrooms horror film based on viral shorts by a 17-year-old Kane Parsons in the works at A24, Atomic Monster, and Charon and 21 Laps. But essentially, if you haven't heard about the Backrooms, it started off as a creepypasta with this image kind of giving you an eerie feel of somewhere that's familiar to you, but you know you haven't gone to before. And in the end, it's just like a void of an empty office space where you just turn and you'll just never reach the end. There's also people who add on to the lore where there's like creepy monsters in there, unknown beings, specifically Kane Parsons, who kind of ran with it and did his own little found footage style horror to go into the back rooms, try to learn what they can, but then it's hard for them to escape out. They've got millions of views on so many of those videos. The backroom videos I enjoy the most is from like this CG animated artist, and he just has these like suit up people going through the back rooms taking notes. It's just kind of funny, not as scary, but I think it's cool. But either way, it's just like a viral phenomenon that people are so fascinated with, and we're always begging they should do a Backrooms movie, and now A24 is going to be doing it. The most surprising part of this story is that this 17-year-old kid who took the initiative himself to make these viral shorts online is going to be gifted the director's chair. Like, that is the dream. You live in a world now where you can create your own content, your own horror shorts. Hollywood might see it. They dial in that phone, you pick it up. You in Hollywood now, baby. That is awesome for this kid. But the other thing that kind of stands out to me here is, A24's involvement. They've never done a found footage horror movie, and a lot of people are linking this movie happening to something like Skinamarink. That's another horror movie, if you haven't heard, that was going around getting some viral buzz, people calling it the scariest movie experience they've ever had, some really hating that experience. But this was also a movie created by someone who just picked up a camera, made the film themselves for like a couple thousands of dollars. That is like pennies in Hollywood, and it ended up making millions at the box office. Well, 2 million. I don't know if you should expect a traditional horror movie here. This might be a Skinamarink situation where it's experimental horror. A24 is going to give a couple $1 million to this kid, let him make a movie, see how it goes. We know there's a viral audience out there for it, but is it going to be something palatable to general audiences, or is it going to feel more experimental horror where it'll only reach and connect to a niche audience that'll love it, while the majority is going, I just don't get it. This ain't for me, because that was kind of Skinamarink for me. I tried. I'm happy with experimental horror, but movie just wasn't for me. I don't know. This is where I throw it off to you guys. The Backrooms has a lot of potential, but I think you do need to temper expectations. A24, we know what kind of horror movies they make. That's been hit and miss with me. Some I really connect with. Some I'm like, it's a little too artsy for me. How do you think A24 is going to handle the Backrooms movie? But now bringing us here to talk about Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania. They've recently had their Hollywood premiere here where they screened the movie to audiences, and they were able to give their early reactions as soon as they walked out of the theater. Now, it should always be said, people like to bring this up, whenever you have selected press members that get access to these movies, they think they're only going to give them good reviews, because if they give them a bad review, they're going to kick them off that list. That's honestly a myth. Like, someone in the entertainment business who has gotten an early screening personally from Disney and then came on here and crapped on it, Thor: Love and Thunder, Pinocchio, the freaking Home Alone Christmas reboot, I never get an email the next day saying, you're taken off the list, 3C. You're supposed to like what we show you. But yes, you do have some people that just come out praising, loving it right away, because maybe it is a great movie. But this time around, we are seeing some mixed reactions where not a lot of people were loving Quantumania. Giving you a positive review here, we have one that said, the best Star Wars movie since 2018 is Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania. It's a huge sci-fi adventure with gorgeous world building that feels almost un-Marvel in how much world building there is. But it's got humor, heart, Kang completely rules and Michelle Pfeiffer steals it. And I read this specific review because for the people coming out giving it a positive reaction, those are the main things I'm hearing. A lot of people are comparing Ant-Man the Wasp Quantumania to Star Wars or Dune, that there is so much world building that it feels like such a wacky sci-fi adventure. And that's something I wouldn't expect to hear from an Ant-Man movie. It feels like Star Wars. Also, of course, you have people praising Kang the Conqueror here, played by Jonathan Majors. Even the negative reviews I've seen here praise Kang as being the highlight of the movie, along with Michelle Pfeiffer. But now if we want to get to some of the reactions of people who are kind of mixed on this movie, we have one here that says, Ant-Man the Wasp Quantumania should have sparked Phase 5 with a bang, but it misses the mark. The story is plagued with filler, while sufficient, lacks depth. However, Majors does an outstanding performance as the cunning and ruthless Kang. I wish it had left an impression. Another one here that goes, Quantumania kicks off Phase 5 with a whimper instead of a bang. While better than most of the films in Phase 4, Quantumania feels very generic, lacks laughs, and the emotional beats fall kind of flat. Jonathan Majors and Catherine Noon are the MVPs. And that's mainly what I'm hearing from the negatives. It's that this movie feels more like setup, that it focuses too much on building this whole Kang dynasty that we're leading to in Avengers Kang Dynasty, that it kind of forgets to be a bit of an Ant-Man movie that doesn't really focus on these characters and the now. To me, that's been one of my biggest negatives with Marvel. So many of these projects, whether they're Disney Plus series or new movies in the phase, they never feel like they're living in the moment of that movie. Every movie now feels like a setup to something bigger. And some people will say, well, Chris, that has always been Marvel. And every movie teases something leading up. Yes, but that was always like a fraction of the movie. Like 10% of the movie was set up to the next thing. Now it feels from the moment the movie starts, it's hinting you little things. It's telling you some backstories that'll become big relevant parts in another movie when that movie is also going to be setting up other things. You run into this endless cycle, Marvel, of you're always setting up, you're always setting up, you're always setting up, there's never a punchline. Still, even with all this said, I hear enough good things and stuff in there that keep me excited for this movie and not going, dang, now I don't want to see this. I mean, who doesn't want to see this new big bad Kang the Conqueror? Everyone's saying he's going to be fantastic, so imagine when he shows up in Avengers Kang Dynasty. That's going to be awesome. I'm also hearing the 2 post-credit scenes are pretty mind-blowing and that people are getting really excited to see them, which also, mind you, there are probably spoilers out there, so if you don't want to know, don't look at them. I don't want to know, so don't comment it. But man, anytime I see reactions like this that are mixed, it also brings me back to those early days in Marvel where it felt like they could do no wrong. Every movie was a 10 out of 10, or at least it felt that way with some of the early praises. Now it's becoming so common that every Marvel movie, there's mixed reactions. There's people loving it, hating it, or just somewhere in the middle. Makes you wonder if they've lost their touch, or we just got so used to such high quality Marvel movies that even just a good movie feels meh. So this is where I throw it off to you guys. You hear these Ant-Man the Wasp Quantumania reactions. Do they get you excited? Do they get you worried? Is this the early sign that Phase 5 is going to be another Phase 4? But that is all the movie news we currently have going on right now, guys. I want to thank you so much for taking time out of your day to watch me talk some movie news. Don't forget to like, subscribe, follow me on Twitter at 3C Films or on TikTok at 3C Films. But as always, I'm Chris. Take care.